Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zest to Zen with me, Shel Marie, the podcast that will take you on a journey from the hustle to the harmony, fueling your passion while finding your peace. Today, I'm truly honored to welcome not only someone I know professionally, but also on a personal level after speaking with her and speaking at an incredible event with her, Kylie Bonnor, an inspiring leader in the workplace for mental wellness, which is so important, gender harmony, and women's health. With over 20 years of experience in trauma recovery and personal development, Kylie brings together neuroscience, hormonal health, and deep compassion to creating lasting breakthroughs, especially for those working in high-pressured, high-impactful roles. I had the pleasure, as I said previously, of already meeting Kylie in person at a women's empowerment event in Valencia, where we were both speaking. And honestly, when she got up and she shared her presentation on the understanding of monthly cycles, it was nothing short of transformational, not only for me, but I know for everybody in that room, male or female. It's such an important topic, and it was an absolute game changer for me and made me really reflect on parts of my life that I had no idea about, and I just pushed and forced. And we will share more on that, but her knowledge and her wisdom that she is going to share today is absolutely, as I said, transformational. And it really helps not only us, but everybody, even men, women, everybody, understand the importance of supporting all women in our lives and understanding the cycles that they are going through on a monthly basis. So another thing that inspired me about Kylie was not only witnessing her as an expert in her field, but as a powerful, loving mother, bringing her daughter along to be immersed in a room full of strong, impactful leaders with powerful messages, which I just think shows her mindset and her understanding of really empowering the younger generation. So I'm very excited to welcome Kylie today, her wisdom, her warmth, and her story. Let's dive in. Hi, Kylie.
Hi, Shel. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome.
I get goosebumps when I hear that because, when I do it and I talk about it all the time, but hearing someone else say all those things, you just sort of go, oh, yeah, I do that. I do that. It's quite a humbling moment as well. So thank you for that intro.
But this is what I remembered about you after your talk as well. And I'm just going to say it from the heart because that's what I love about this podcast is that we have this time where we're not on a script, and I'm not saying that that's what other podcasts do, but we can talk heart to heart, woman to woman. I feel so many emotions right now, and I love that you and just to give people some context of how incredibly just humble and as you just heard from her own mouth, she's just huh? Me, yes, you. And I remember we had technical difficulties that day and her PowerPoint wasn't working, and I literally just wanted to be this container and just absorb everything she was saying. And although she said it with her words, which she will share today, I could see she had the most incredible PowerPoint as well. And everything just seemed to be almost like a resistance against sharing the knowledge. But she persevered and she continued, and then just like what she's just done now, she just almost said it like it wasn't even anything like that spectacular, because it's just something within her that she knows. And we were just all like, no, stop. So, what did you just say? And she's just like, yeah. So I really wanted to share that because I think there's not only the wisdom and the knowledge and the expertise, but I actually find that so humbling that you don't even recognize you do, but you are so, I'm trying to think of the right word, so humble to what gift you give people in sharing this knowledge. Which is something, as we know as women, that is perfectly timed for me right now. So anyway, I'm not going to blabber on any longer. Understanding our cycles. So important. Let's just start that in, or let's just really reel that back. And how did this even begin? Because I've gone through over 30 years of my life having no idea about this, just giving myself so much guilt, so much shame, so much like expectation, where I need to honor the cycles of myself. And people also need to honor that. So yeah, let's just start there. Thank you.
Yeah, so if I really think about it, I was the same growing up. It was really negative in my life. Not that, no, it just was like no one talked terribly about it, but it just had a negative, you couldn't, like I grew up in a hot, in Queensland in Australia, in the hot sort of state. So you could swim all year round, sort of. But once a month you couldn't swim because you had your period. And so there was just all this negative stuff. I mean, of course, as you grow up and things change, the products have changed and freedoms come about. But I think it was always an effort and a negative thing. And you've got your monthlies, and it was always, it just never was celebrated, maybe. That's probably a really good word. But as I got older, then we had trouble not so much getting pregnant, but staying pregnant. When I got pregnant, I had 3 miscarriages in a row, and then got pregnant with my son, and I needed IVF drugs to stay pregnant. Had no idea. I didn't really understand it because I kept miscarrying about 11 or so weeks. But when I got pregnant with my son, I said to the doctor I shouldn't have been pregnant because I'd come off birth control and I was tracking my cycle, and I knew that I ovulated 14 days before my period. And we'd done the deed like maybe a week before my bleed, my ovulation. And so when I said to the doctor I shouldn't be pregnant, but then you look at the information and you sort of, the old wives' tales and things say, oh, well, you'll have a girl because sperm can live for 5 days, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's going to be a girl. So I knew that I was having a girl, and then it was a boy. And when I said that to the doctor, I was like, this can't possibly be.
There's so many things that you are saying that are not true here right now.
It can't be possible. And so, but the doctor was a bit arrogant, but they just have that way about them.
That's how you got your transformation. If you had that loving, nurturing, you would have got this lovely gem. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So anyway, so then we moved because my husband's in the military, so we move around a lot. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter, I was tracking my cycle because I was like, well, we wanted to have another baby, but I didn't really know anything. So then I read this book, and I started tracking my cycle, and I just had a graph book, like an old, lined into a grid, and I just was plotting on the map. I was taking my temperature.
Wow.
I was checking the egg white. You read all the stuff, and then there was 5 things I think I was tracking. I can't really remember what they were, but it turned out I was having a 5-week cycle. I knew I had a 5-week cycle. I'd always had from about the age of maybe when I went on the pill, probably 19 or 20. I'd had a 5-week cycle, but the pills never really worked for me. I was fucking sorry. I just swore. I was a red hot mess, totally erratically emotional, and the pills were just they just made me crazy. Like I was just a nutcase, and crying 1 minute, laughing the next, like when I was pregnant, but can't change it when you're pregnant. So, but then I got pregnant with my daughter, and in that tracking space of a few months, I realised that I was ovulating 3 times a month, which is not normal. So, but hence why I got pregnant so early with my son, and it was a boy. So that was the sort of first part of my life with tracking cycles. And so, but then I knew a bit more. So it was really quite easy to track cycles after that because I just knew enough and I could see the signs. But then fast forward, and I had a few more miscarriages, and then my youngest son was born, and he was my 10th pregnancy. And then I had a lot of trouble, and I was going to the doctors saying I'm bleeding for 4 weeks out of every 5, and this is not normal. And they said, oh, you should have a marina put in, like an IUD.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but I don't need it for the birth control because my husband's had a vasectomy, so I'd rather not put hormones in that make me crazy if I don't have to. So they said, oh, well, you can have an ablation. And so I researched this ablation. They said, oh, it's a really easy thing. Now, an ablation, they cauterize the inside of your uterus so that there's nowhere for the lining to shed. It's sort of scar tissue, so it doesn't shed. But it doesn't get all the corners, like it's a 3D thing. So if there's a corner, so it can't be used for birth control because you can still get pregnant with it. It reduces bleeding. Wow. So that was done. This thing that they said, it's just a minor procedure and 2 days off and you'll be back at work. I ended up needing 6 weeks recovery. If I'd known it was 6 weeks recovery, I would have never gone there. Like I would have just got a hysterectomy, I think.
Wow.
But it's huge and no one tells you that. So I guess a lot of people can just take it, they just take painkillers and then they power on through maybe, but I just could not. So that was sort of the next stage. But then that worked and it ended up being that I sort of ended up having a normal 5-week cycle that I'd bleed for 4 days and then not for the rest of the 4 weeks of the month. And thought that was great. Well, that lasted for 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
And then I got this thing that they diagnosed as post-ablation syndrome. So there's a lot of stuff in there. And I really encourage people think it's an easy way out, but I really encourage people to look at the post effects as well. And, when we look at things like, I don't know if you've heard about the mesh and stuff that they put in for people with prolapse and how that causes cancer. There's a lot of things that in hindsight that we know, but we just trust our caregivers and that's where we're at. And so then we moved again. And at that time, Ruby was she was in the starts of puberty, and I was seeing the doctor about this post-ablation that I was still bleeding 4 weeks out of every 5, and they said, oh, we'll just give you a hysterectomy. And I said, is it actually broken, or is it, is there something wrong with it, or is it just, what's the problem? And they were like, oh, you don't need it. You've had your children, you don't need it. But I just had this sense that we're not born not to need, we have our tonsils. We might not know what the reason we have our tonsils or our appendix or our uterus is. I mean, we know what the purpose of a uterus is, right? But just because we don't understand it after childbirth doesn't mean it's not useful. And because having a hysterectomy comes into menopause and everything.
Yeah, not to stop you there, but I don't know if you just summarised that, but I think that also needs to be, and I know we're in these positions where things are just kind of normalised, but I think there also needs to be a delivery in that, because it's kind of like, and it's like, this is a person speaking to another person here right now. So sorry, I just felt like I just really wanted to, because that was really important what you just said. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. And so, but I just had this sense of that can't be possibly right. But my period changed again, and I didn't really understand why, but I was tracking, and I was starting to teach my daughter to track because she'd started a bit of her cycle, and then and then I fell into it. I had to learn in a hurry because my whole cycle changed when Ruby started with her puberty. And honestly, I don't actually know if it was just Ruby because I've got 3 teenagers, right? So my cycle has changed again. The youngest one's 15, nearly 15, and it changed again since she has left, and the 2 older ones, so Ruby and my 2 eldest ones, Ruby's in the middle, so they nearly 20 and 18. So puberty was a few years ago, and then the next one's coming into finished in the middle of. We're in the throes of teenager.
Just before you can continue, I just feel like that was a little bit of a gem that you just mentioned, and I'd love to know your opinion on it, because I love that you said, and it's changed, because this is something I noticed being particularly in a house full of lots of women, and then in house shares and in uni. And I would again love you. I feel like you know more than this, but it's something I noticed, that we would go into these frenzies almost of like, what's happened, and something's happening in my body. But I noticed that we seem to go to the timings of the women around us. Is that correct?
So
and trust me, that household was not a good place for my brother to be in.
Yeah. So the thing about cycles, so in the last 5 to 10 years, the trackers that we've had, and whether they're like independent ones like the Temp Drop, or if they're on your phone or with your fitness watch or whatever, what we've learned in the menstrual cycle world is that there used to be these things saying, oh, everyone cycles together. And the thing about period tracking apps has actually highlighted that we don't cycle together. So, but if there's 4 weeks in a month, say 4 people, it's pretty relative that you're going to overlap when you bleed for a week of 4 weeks, right, So the thing that I started to hypothesize once I embarked on this endeavour and this journey through cycles, and I had been working in the mental health and trauma recovery space, and I was seeing that when my husband would go away with the military, my hormones would change. And when you're younger, your hormones change, but they're quite strong.
Yeah.
As in, like they can overcome things really well. Like if you don't rest as a 20-year-old during your bleed, you're probably not going to notice it too much, but you're probably, without knowing, you're causing more cramps and longer bleed probably, and pain and fogginess and things like that. And it goes on and it builds up, I think, over probably 20 years because we don't notice it and no one teaches us to revere it and to understand it. As you start to get older, the swings between the hormones, I think, get bigger. So then you notice it more. So my husband would go away and Mr. Testosterone would leave the house, and my levels of something were getting stronger, but then he would come home, and once upon a time I used to be this gorgeous, sexy, like shave my legs, get everything ready.
You still are, honey.
Clean the house. Well, but when he came home, whereas by the time we had 3 kids and those hormones were playing more of a factor without me realising, but I was trying to push through, then I would crash. He'd come home and I would crash if I tried to do too much and get ready for that. So as I started to hypothesize these things, I just noticed things, and I noticed that all of my friends who had hysterectomies all had them. There was probably 2 that didn't have them at the same time, but the rest of them had them when their kids started to hit puberty age. Like there was a couple that had them like before the kids hit puberty, but and I had to learn, I had to discover, like, I just had this sense of, I don't know what's going on here, but wonder if the reason that my periods are so crazy and Dave comes and goes all the time is because of hormones. So I had to learn something. So then I went and learned all about these hormones and how periods work, and I had a period coach, and she taught me everything I knew about period coaching, which is fantastic. And I love that we've got a beautiful community of women who do know this stuff, because it's like a secret, and we can share it. And I really do believe that our bodies know more than we give them credit for, and one day in the future we will realise that when people leave our circle, whether it's girls or boys, our body knows and makes up different hormones. So when my husband goes away, my body knows it needs more testosterone, so it increases the cortisol, which is what happens for women, to make testosterone. So it uses up all of my progesterone to make some cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which we're addicted to, but it's not good for us and we have to detox it, and women don't detox it naturally, whereas men do. When they go for a run, it detoxes cortisol. You go for a run as a woman and it creates cortisol. Now that's fine around your ovulation time when you've got strength and energy and extra testosterone in your system. But if you're doing that the week before you're going for a bleed, going to menstruate, then you're zapping yourself of all of your energy stores and your hormonal stores. You end up with this massive difference in your estrogen versus progesterone levels. end up with estrogen dominance, you end up with polycystic ovarian syndrome, you end up with PMS or PMDD, erratic, crazy hormones, acne, like everything comes down to just not knowing that how powerful we can be, and just respecting that space that, once upon a time we would have got into a cave and just been, and other women who finished bleeding would have nurtured us and still had that relaxing, non-energetic time of just being, doing what you have to, but nothing more. Not thinking about stuff. And it allows, like, if you go into the woo-woo side of menstrual cycles, then it allows spirit and understand, like, the people say that the veil lifts during that time and you become more creative and you become more in tune if you're into that sort of stuff. So
wow, so much
it
in
interacts
there.
everywhere.
Yeah, thank you. And I actually love the example you gave, which sounds so simple yet so profound, because what you commented on, I know it was only one little example, but when we think about that as a standalone example and then applying it to something much greater. So for example, when you said about the running, like that in itself, like even if a lady or whoever still wants to do that, it's just the awareness, that, okay, no, I understand now why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling this particular week. I'm not going to be harsh on myself, but to put that on a grander scale, like it could be something so nourishing for your wellness that you feel not as great that week. But it's applying that to things that we can't actually decide upon, things like our jobs, our businesses, our companies. And this was something you really touched on that was really profound. And I would love you to go into it a little bit more detail, because I don't want to summarize your words. You're the one that has the knowledge. But something that I just really remember you saying, and it's so funny that whether it's woo-woo or not, the ebb and flow, then really the concept really entered my mind afterwards, and I started really understanding it. But every time I'm now, just so you know how much of an impact you've made, particularly on my life, every time I'm going through certain times in my life, I always remember your talk, which is why it's so important to me, because I'm like, remember what Kylie said. And it's just almost like that nurturing, loving moment of like, it's okay. Of like, because I am very much, as you say, we almost get that inspiration, whether it's woo-woo or not, it's still something we can all relate to, where we have ideas, sometimes we have energy, we're fueled, but often if we don't have the capacity, or we've not given ourselves, filled our cup up enough and poured into ourselves, we can feel that then the lower vibrations of guilt and shame and stuff for not using that inspiration. So I thank you so much for touching on that. And obviously if there's anything,
I think it's just really, I think this knowledge was known years ago, whether we knew it in the same sense of what we know now, that our progesterone drops and our estrogen rises and all this stuff, and or whether we just knew it in a sort of a sense of being.
Yes.
But we live in a world that is the 21st century. It is the Western, most of us, well, I don't know about your viewers so much, but I certainly am in the Western world. And we are able, as women, we've come through this space and history of we can do anything.
Yeah.
So we do. And we can do anything, but if we try and do it like a man, on an 8-hour cycle 3 times a day of work, rest and play, able to go for 80 years like that, we really are not going to be our best selves in any of the stages. Yeah. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if we go into that, the next level, if we're wanting to be these amazing, success-driven career women, which I did for 17 years. I had my own business without knowing this, and I ran it. And so I would go along and I'd hit targets and I'd hit goals. I had big goals, and I'd make all the cuts, and I'd have my meetings, and then I'd hit the goal, and then it'd be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Just crash and burn. And I'd need a week or a month, depending on, or 3 months to recover, depending on how long I'd been working towards that goal. And whereas the minute I changed to be in tune with my cycle, I had longevity. What I didn't realise in 17 years of work, I could work for 3 or 4 days a month and still get the exact same productivity results.
Thank you for that.
Meet my sales targets because I'm working around the time that I need to be out there, and I've got energy to be out there, and my testosterone's higher and I look really good. So there's this unconscious, people are saying yes to me just because I'm a bit more confident, and no one knows why. Like, I just know that people are saying yes more, and isn't that how we would work smarter? Like, if you just knew that you could work 4 days a month on that, and then the next week when you're in like pre-menstrual space, your luteal phase, you can just do all your planning. And I write really well during my luteal phase, so if I need to write something or need to do content or anything, that's all in that week, and I get so much done. I just write, and then when I need something, I just pull open that book and write it when I need it. And then during menstrual, I can sit and watch Netflix and binge for 3 or 4 days, and it is okay because I have planned for it. And I've got some food in the fridge or the freezer ready to go because I knew that it was coming and I needed to be able to rest and I needed life to be easier. And my hubby's great. He's been totally indoctrinated by me telling him, no, I can't do that because I'm sorry, I'm too busy bleeding.
Refer to the calendar. Remember the schedule. Thank you.
Yes. Don't forget it. So, and
it's on the fridge.
My kids now. Yeah. Oh yeah, the toilet door. My kids bring their friends home. It's never the first time they bring them home, but if they find someone who's got some problems, they bring them home. And it used to happen in the car all the time. We'd be driving along, and then Ruby mostly, or Jack, they'd be like, ask my mum. My mum. Ask her now.
Ask her. And you're just like, I'm just going to pretend that I'm not here.
I'll just keep driving.
Do you want to ask me something?
What? Have you got a problem?
And then on the days when it refer to the calendar, just turn the music up slowly. This is my time. But all joking aside, it's transformational. It's amazing, and I know I said this previously, and I feel like we've connected again for a reason. But I am 100% going to find out speak with you aside from this, and I recommend anybody to do this because, like what you said, there's the kind of like not sure but a knowing. And there's awareness, and that's very different because I think in the awareness of yourself, because we can have this information now, you've just shared all that incredible information, be like, oh yeah, remember what Kylie said, but we're still individual, we're still on our own timeline and our own monthly cycle. So just having, even if it's obviously I don't know the way you carry it out, but just connecting with you, having that discovery call and just seeing what can I do today just to know more about myself. If we don't ask, we don't know. Ask. So I 100%, like what I say, I have those moments and it's an awareness now, but it's not a deep knowing.
So I think what you're talking about is this embodiment. I think when you're aware of it, you can be aware of the cycles and you can understand it. I think that's what I was for a lot of years between childbirthing years. But once it becomes an embodiment, it's a real power, like a superpower. Like people don't understand how you get things done when you do, or how things happen. And I do we'll throw in a side note, that embodiment. When I learned about this at the next level, someone sent me an article about free bleeding. I don't know if you've heard about that. It's a very, it's talked about on TikTok a lot now, but at the time, 7 or 8 years ago, it was not a thing. But I read this article and I was like, what a crock of shit. As if you can just go bleeding everywhere, or like as if you can tell your body to bleed like that. But it was like, when I read that article, it was like something in my unconscious brain turned on, because ever since then I have not needed any period products. So I'm completely sustainable. During my bleed time, I have to sit on the toilet a bit longer. Like at night, I'll just sit and just relax and consciously think about flowing. I do not have to, like, I don't have accidents. Maybe I've had one accident in about 8 years, when things were going on. But I actually believe that that's how we were.
Yeah.
If we think about cave women, they couldn't have been going around bleeding everywhere. They would have been eaten, right? So they had to know how to, I don't know, go away from their camp and bleed by a tree and then come back to camp and be clean, yeah? And so when you first hear about it, you think, oh my God, that's crazy. But then it's like my body just knew, and it has not unknown ever since. And people have said, oh, well, how do you do that? I have no idea. I could not tell someone how to do it if I tried. But my body just knew. It was like an ancient wisdom.
But like whether people want to hear it or not, like everyone will take what they want to hear, but like whether we call it woo-woo or whatever, as we know, this and the belief is so powerful. So in you being curious and being like, all right, let's see, you open to something and the answer came.
Well, I was kind of trying to prove it wrong, actually.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, and the only reason why I'm saying this is because I had a similar experience. I have a similar experience. And I don't want to, well, no, actually, because we're all open on it, but I have it in very much 3 days. I'm basically like anemic, like, boom. And it's intense. And, you know, especially when back then I was teaching, imagine that, like, it's like I'm full on 8 hours and those children do not give you grace. And, you know, I'm just trying to just get through the day, like, and just want to hug myself and just be in my bed and just eating something. And it's like, you know, miss. And I'm just like, is this happening right now? It's like I'm there, but I'm not there. So, but going back to that, so like saying, like knowing that about my body, but there was many years where nothing. I didn't need anything at all. Never.
Yeah.
And it's like my body just, I don't even know how it happened. It just happened that way. I just never needed to. And it was actually, I was on the implant at the time, and then it was funny that when I then allowed my body just to be natural and release everything, because that's another important thing you spoke about, by the way, our hormones, because and there's this thing, and I remember someone saying something so damaging when I was younger of like commenting on my erratic behavior, which I didn't know at the time was because of something I was putting into my body that someone told me would help me. And it was only after years of not having that particular, it was a pill at the time, I won't mention it, but I was reintroduced to that when I went into the Middle East, because that was the only option they gave. And I remember being in the car and I was like, it doesn't matter that, because I'm very good with heat, but it was a very hot day as well. But obviously I had the aircon on, and I'm sitting in this car and I sat in traffic, and I'm like, I'm not even had it in my body, not even 2 days, and I can feel this like monster in me, like really brewing, and then the car behind me, like everything was so intensified, and the car behind me, I was like, almost like, are you gonna get in my boot? Like it was such this like kind of very damaging, like I don't want to even call it masculine, but it was like this behavior that was so out of character for me. And I was just like road rage, all this, and it's like we really need to, like, one, be really considerate to women when they're going through these new changes, and two, like really recognize and honor changes in our body and what we're putting into our body, and not actually think this is just me. Because for years of my life, and it just happened that I was going through my teenage years, and I remember I would literally have the most amazing day and then just end in tears, and people would be like, you're always like this. There was so many storylines, and it wasn't. It was something that was in my body that wasn't me. And it's so damaging.
It's so damaging to our mental health and our soul as a woman, because of how our brain works. So you add in the hormone, but even if you take that bit away, even just the doctor gave you this, so you think that they should know. So it's okay. They said that there'd be side effects. So you're sort of understanding, but you squash all of your intuition and your self-value and belief. Like, you knew that wasn't normal, but you were like, oh, but it must be I just have to get used to it. Like, you sort of squash you into their box. And it's something that is really, that alone for women is a damage. Like, even if you have no problems on the pill, just the way that our brain works differently to make it okay, if that makes sense. When things are going wrong, and if we take that to the masculine, the medical system, the men that tried to bring in the male pill a lot of times for about 40 years, about the same time, 50 years maybe, might be 60 now. Gosh, when did our pill come? 50. So about 70 years they have been trying. It's probably only 40 years that they've been trying for men. But men keep getting these side effects, and some of the side effects are suicidal, some of them are like mental health wise, some of them are just that they're a bit more impotent. Some of them there's five side effects for men. If you look at the list for women, it's like 68 or something for a standard general. That's the average of each pill. My God. Now, if that was for men, like if they keep squashing the men's one because there's these 5 side effects, how terrible. But ours has got
68.
Tens, nearly 100, like comparatively. That's so
I think
when
also,
you understand how it works, you can understand why. Like, it's not anyone's fault, it just is. But I mean, it's definitely there's fault at the medical system and the research system because they don't test on women. But when you just recognise that's what it is, but you can learn to work and manage in that, then it's just an easier world.
And I think also, like, just to conclude, it's been incredible speaking to you, but I think also it's really important, like, I now know from removing that from my life for many years that was never me, but I identified as being that person, which is, again, like what we said, like, I really felt like I was this person that just, that's how I am. I go from very, like, I'd be super sensitive to then very, like, almost this rage in me. And people, like, because I didn't even know where it was coming from, people is almost like were kind of judging me and having like these quite damaging humor jokes about it as well, of like, oh, which version are we going to get today? And it's like, just if there's something I can say, and I'd love you to do like a last message as well, but for anyone listening, I just think it's really, really important to just have that time to sit with yourself, not all woo-woo and stuff, just really start to know yourself and know your happy medium. And if something you're putting in your body, new or not new, or there's something you just intuitively know, it's like, even though I had that in my body a long time and I started associating with that, I still knew it was not me. And it was just like, but it comes from nowhere, and it was so uncontrollable as well. Even when I was aware of it, like, why do I do this all the time? If you are questioning things, there's something you need to look deeper into, I think, because I know now me. I know my happy medium, and I know when I start wobbling. And I think that's really another important thing you need to know, is like your general, regardless of your cycle, because we have to be kind and honor ourselves, but there's a general, like, I feel, happy medium of how we all are always, and we have these days and we have these days, and it's like just to honor that, like, okay, today, do you know what, today I'm just going to sit on that sofa and I'm gonna do nothing because I can. So on that note, well, is there anything, if you just have anything that comes through of,
well, I think the I'll leave you with a bit of a funny anecdote in that, just on what you've said, if you have, there are studies now that show that women who are on the pill like different things about men than they would if they're not on the pill.
Oh, thank you for highlighting. Sorry, I just got
And
so many shivers
choose
then. Yes,
not,
thank you.
maybe less than ideal
It's
mates and
completely
partners.
changed. Yes. Yes. Things I used to tolerate, no, because I'm not now looking for this, like, save me, help me, please. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, that's okay. So the things that I really believe in is that if you look after your mental health and then you understand your physical symptoms and health, then life is easier as a mum, as a business person, as an employee, as a person going through life. And you suddenly find this different level of joy, and like the world is a different colour because
That's beautiful.
of how we're interacting with the world. And sometimes it can be dark.
Oh, in order to see the light, honey, you've got to go through the dark sometimes.
But it's all meant to be. And so, so I really like to empower people, whether it's through mental health stuff and doing things like I Am Remarkable courses or anything like that. That's a program that was developed by Google to help women see how good they are.
Amazing.
And then to be able to get promotions is what it was meant for, but they realised how good it was in the whole world. Or if it's about fine-tuning, and you'll do it for a lot of different reasons. You might do it because you want to avoid getting pregnant or get pregnant. You might do it because you want to be more productive in your business. You might do it because you notice that you are having these times that you're crazy. Or you might do it because suddenly your kids are coming into puberty and how to prepare them, but also how to deal with yourself. Because even if you don't have a cycle, if you've had a hysterectomy, if you've hit menopause, if you've had an ovarectomy or anything else, you still have a cycle from the day you're born to the day you die if you're a female.
Wow.
And understanding that is this beautiful gift you can give your children. It's a beautiful gift you can give your grandmothers, because it's never been talked about, and it can be really it just crosses boundaries and changes the world eventually.
Well, honestly, what a blessing, absolute blessing. And I know just through watching this that you're going to change so many lives, and you already are and already have. And thank you. I'm just so, I feel so privileged to have had that opportunity, like, as we never know the seeds leading up to something else, of like just hearing that talk and then look what blossoms from that. So you are a gem. And thank you so much for your time today. And I will put all of your information on all the platforms. And please reach out to Kylie. You need to know this. Everybody needs to know this. And I definitely will be asking more about this. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.